I will start. So, can you put the first picture, Adam? So, when he's actually just talking about, the kingdom of heaven, um, and he relates that to mustard seed, you know, he's talking about what we do when we're exposed and we give that faith, we have that faith. Many people, whenever they're trying to just correlate that you need something like this, and that's actually really an actual mustard seed. You start that way. You start really little. And like the funny thing is I was actually exploring, and doing more into like searching. Um, what happens when that seed is put on the ground? What happens next? The ground applies pressure into that, applies like strong pressure to break that seed. So, what happens when we are first exposed to the gospel? And we actually, I think Diego or Adam talk about that when we started in the gospel. What happens is that we're being applied pressure. We're being put to test our faith, and something great happens because yes, it crushes the seed, but then a plant starts growing up. And can you put the next picture? And we actually get into a really big, strong tree. So what happens here? When we start, we're getting pressure, and like Diego was actually mentioning a few moments ago, there's people who actually start in the gospel and they actually genuine, but when pressure is being upon them, they say, well, this is not for me. So it's not that there cannot be again in the gospel, but it's actually the first reaction into that. So our faith is being tested, to get into a point that it becomes strong, it becomes rooted like a mustard seed. So the seed is actually talking about a start. It's not talking about how God actually wants your faith to be. He wants you to be strong in your faith. It's just a start. It's the first step you take into that. So um, even there's I'm gonna read out something. When God just gives you that faith into the point, He actually in Philippians said that the one that He who begun a good work in you will carry it into onto completion until the day of Christ Jesus. The one who started, the God that we serve, the one that actually started the work, He's gonna finish into that. He's gonna finish that work into you, but you have to start in a way, little by little. This is not something that they tell you a lot of stories, and don't get me wrong, there's people who can actually just give a 360 change, but I see a lot of people day by day growing their faith, reading the Bible, being exposed to the gospel, but it's step by step. The end goal is to become, like Jesus, in a way that He was actually faithful, and He actually just like, had that crazy faith to just God, or even the apostles, have that strong rooted faith that could just, lead you and guide you through the hard times. So this is actually just something that ministered me a lot, because when later on we will see Jesus talking about the mustard seed and the faith, but like um how can I say this, like spoiler alert, he will actually just like tell you that you need just faith as a mustard seed, but it's not the end goal. It's just a start, because he wants you to become that strong rooted tree. So we're not gonna, if you stay as a mustard seed, well, you're gonna be crushed. I'm sorry. You need to just break through and be exposed to that gospel, so that your faith can grow so much that we can just even emulate Jesus, like He was actually on the boat that everything was chaos, and he was still sleeping and giving that rest. That's actually faith, guys.